And again, I think people just need to recognize that your banker could be so much more than, hey, I borrowed money and I have a checking account with them.
Yeah.
And they need to recognize to utilize that.
100%.
So, what I'm finding is more small to medium-sized businesses are beginning to recognize the importance of good relationships with their bankers.
Yeah, and that's what we did today.
Correct. That's exactly what we
Yeah.
did today. And coming out of a post-COVID world, I think a lot of folks recognize that during COVID, when things were not great, they were getting responses and they were hearing from their bankers
Right.
in community-focused banks or relationship-focused banks. And the big banks, I don't want to say they weren't doing what they could, but they were focused on what was their primary customer base, which typically you wouldn't find would be small to medium-sized businesses. We were very proactive in trying to reach out. Hey, what can we do to assist you? We want to see your success because their success is our success.
Yeah, you guys were great during that whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a boon time for us, mind you. But
Sure.
you guys are still great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things. Like today, we just sat down and brainstormed.
That's correct.
Which
that's
is awesome.
Correct. Yeah, and we try to do that pretty often, or as much as we can with customers who we know want to grow their businesses. Because I think the other thing is I think folks also forget that bankers aren't just checking accounts and loans. We're a wealth of knowledge, and we have deep networks. So while we may not have necessarily the right answer for you on a particular product or service, it's almost a guarantee that we know somebody.
Yeah. Or you give a different angle or perspective. Like
Correct.
we were chatting about a couple of things, and you threw out a couple of things that makes me look at it a little bit different. I'd probably throw out, I don't know if you see this, I imagine maybe smaller businesses are maybe afraid to talk to their banking relationship or have one. Like,
yeah,
that's what I don't find a lot of my comrades are like, yeah, I'm really friendly with my
yeah,
banking
I think there's a little bit of almost self-deprecation, if you will. They don't think they're important enough, and I don't think anything could be further
I say that too
from
sometimes,
the truth.
right? So I'm like, hey, thanks for looking at stuff. And you're like, this is what I do. And I'm like,
this is perfect. One of the things I tell folks is the most rewarding relationships, or loans. It's not I could do a multi-million-dollar loan to a real estate investor on their 50th project to do a 50-unit building. That's a fun loan. That moves the needle, if you will, for looking at goals for a year. But some of the most rewarding loans I've done is the $100,000 loan to a startup who had a passion for cooking.
Really needs it. Yeah.
Now they've turned that initial investment into their first restaurant, and now they've expanded, and now they have multiple locations, and that's rewarding because you say, in some small part, I helped play a part in changing
somebody's life.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it sounds so silly.
No,
because you think about it, but that's the reason. I think if you talk to most community bankers, the real reward is having an impact on people's lives and their businesses. It's not all bankers are created equal.
Being in the community.
Correct. And for me, doing what we did today really is the fun part, is talking about, hey, this is where I am, this is where we want to go, and providing some ideas to you on how to get there. I tell folks all the time, I have a lot of ideas. A lot of them are garbage. But hey,
you just need one.
You just need one of them.
Yeah.
And if one of those ideas helps you get from point A to point B, I've done my job.
Yeah.
And it's providing that value that I think business owners need to recognize they can extract from their bankers. All they have to do is ask.
So what's the one great icebreaker that you might ask a business or the business should ask you?
I think it's really just spending time with people. It's always hard to get to know folks if you can't find a common theme and a common ground. And everyone has their own different sets of interests. So you come into a meeting a lot of times, and I find it goes one of two ways. People immediately want to get down to business and dive right into stuff, or they want to learn about each other. I try to take the tact of learning about one another, because then you can find some common ground. And I remember the first time you and I met when Dave was transitioning things over. And as things evolved, you and I realized I was in that whole RV world, and you're very much in the boating world, and we've discussed there's a lot of synergies and overlap.
One floats, one rolls.
Well, that's it. That's it.
And they both suck.
And they both, yes, they're both giant pits of money. But we realized they create experiences for our families, yes. And that's what we were both after. And it created a common ground for us to build some beginning trust on, and opening up conversations. So for me, it's learning about people, what makes them tick, what's their real goal.
So maybe the icebreaker is from, if I'm a business and I want to talk to my banking, I don't know how you want to even call yourself. I want to talk to the folks that help me with my business. Like, it's being a little vulnerable. Maybe that's the Hey, look, here's how I'm feeling. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm doing. What do you think? What do you think?
I think that's always helpful. And it's hard. I think it's hard for people to let their guards down because if I'm looking a little bit more globally, and say you turn on CNBC and you go back to some of these crises with bankers, it's always the bankers who cause some issues.
It's not you. It's the big bankers.
And that's the
Yeah.
point. There's a very big difference between a
You and
community
Goldman
focused
Sachs.
bank and yes, we don't bet against ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not betting against our communities. We are here to build our communities. We have a very simple model. We take in deposits, we turn around and reinvest them by way of a loan into our communities to help build those communities. Just as you're a small to medium-sized business in a community you operate in, so is my local branch of a bank in your community. We're nothing compared to a JP Morgan or a Bank of America or a Goldman Sachs. So if they want a piece of business that we're both competing over, I lose every day of the week. But what I offer you is this, the ability to sit down for really an undefined amount of time, access to decision makers. You had our regional president here earlier, sitting here talking one-on-one with you. We could get the bank CEO out to speak with you one-on-one. So you have a very flat organization who's willing to talk to you about different solutions about your specific situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Show me the loan document. And
correct.
We hash things out.
Correct.
So it makes something work.
It's a two-way street. And I think that's one of the things that what I've learned is that so many individuals think that banking and financing, when it comes to bank loans, it's a one-way street. And it's really not. I tell folks a lot of times when we're sitting down in structure, we're in what people perceive as a very high interest rate market. And they're not entirely wrong, but I reassure them, guys, listen, as the interest rate market changes and the environment changes, we sit and we chat.
Figure it out.
We figure things out. This isn't a one-way street. We're here to earn your business just as you're there to earn others' business. So it is being a little bit vulnerable to your banker, having a little trust to know that my sole purpose isn't to extract every dollar and cent out of you.
Your purpose is to make sure I still am in business.
Correct.
I go out of business, you go out of business.
Correct. And
I think that might be a good icebreaker.
Agreed.
Yeah. For both ways. Hey, Mr. Businessman, if you go out of business, I lose my business. I want you to be a winner.
Ray, one of the things I tell people all the time is I don't want you worrying about your bank. I want you worried about running your business. Because if you're worried about the bank and you're not running your business, not only is your business going to suffer, but then is your loan. So is your loan or your relationship with the bank. So if I'm doing my job right,
you're doing a great job.
Thank you. You're not worried about what the bank's doing. And I think that kind of synergy between a customer and their banker.
Got to work for both.
It does. And I think, so you know what is right? Banking really is like a commodity business. I tell people our money's greener than any other banks up and down the street. But what you have to be careful is you're selecting a team of people. When I go out on an initial call, depending on how complex I perceive it to be, I may go out on my own. But a lot of times we go out with a team of 2, 3, 4 people so that whatever your need is, we have the expert from in-house there to help put your mind at ease.
Figure it out.
To help figure it out.
Yeah.
You have my cell phone number, and my cell phone number hasn't changed since 2001.
And you pick up when I call.
And I pick up. That's the access. So we're not selling products. We're not selling service. We're selling ourselves. We're selling the access to us. We're selling how we're going to fix the problems that are inevitably going to occur. Yeah. That's the value proposition we sell. And it sounds silly.
No, it's true.
But if you're a small to medium-sized business, those are the things that I have found really are important to people. They want to know, and I hope you believe it. If you called me on a Saturday afternoon and said, Joe, I have the opportunity of a lifetime.
You pick up the phone.
I need this term sheet done, blah. You'd have something.
Just for the word, there's been numerous times I've called you for advice, or I got something that's going on, or I need this to happen, and you're like, I'll take care of it.
And
or
again,
at least giving me an idea, help me out.
That's it. That's it. And again, that doesn't say there's not other bankers out there. There's not saying that there's not people at big banks that do that. But
we're talking about you.
We're talking about me. And there's a higher likelihood inside those community banks you're going to get individuals like that because, we mentioned I live and work in the community that I'm trying to help.
That you're lending in,
So it's not only do my kids go to school with some of these business owners' kids, my kids are involved with these businesses that I help support. So there's a very real impact on how I help them. Do my kids get to go to do that activity next year because
That business
we
is
did
now
the
there.
right thing and that
Yeah.
business is still there? Did we give them the right advice so that they could survive this hurdle they're going over? And again, I think people just need to recognize that your banker could be so much more than, hey, I borrowed money and I have a checking account with them.
Yeah.
And they need to recognize to utilize that.
100%.
So
Pick up the phone and talk to each other.
that's it.
Amen. That's why I call
Lost
you.
art.
I love it.
Ray.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.